The sound of a woman's skull cracking against frozen ground stopped Jeremiah Hartley's horse dead. 4 little girls screamed from a porch. The youngest, 3 days old, wailed in her sister's arms. Their mother lay crumpled in bloody snow, while her husband raised his boot to finish it. "Fourth daughter," Silas Morrison spat loud enough for the whole town to hear. 4 daughters and not 1 son. Cursed woman. Nobody moved to help. Not the sheriff, not the preacher, not 1 soul in Silver Creek. Jem's hand found his rifle. 6 years of silence ended right there. Subscribe to our channel and follow Ruth's journey to the very end. Comment your city below. Let us see how far this story travels. Silver Creek, Wyoming knew cruelty, lived with it, looked away from it every Sunday after church. But February 14th, 1878 would be remembered. Jeremiah Hartley had ridden 12 miles for nails. Simple errand, in and out. No talking if he could help it. The screaming changed that. He pulled Ghost to a stop at Main Street's edge. Half the town already gathered. Shopkeepers in doorways, women clutching shawls, men with hands pocketed, watching like it was a show. Center of it all, Silas Morrison dragging his wife by her hair through frozen mud. Ruth Morrison stumbled. Silas's fist caught her jaw. She went down hard. 15 years! Silas kicked her ribs. 15 years and all you give me is girls? She curled around herself. Old habit. Protecting a belly that held nothing now. Baby Pearl, born 3 days ago. 4th daughter. 4th disappointment. The porch held all 4 girls. Hannah, the oldest at 10, clutched the newborn against her chest. Grace, 7, stood frozen. Lily, 5, sobbed into her sister's skirt. Nobody moved. Sheriff Brennan watched from the boardwalk, arms crossed. Reverend Crane bowed his head. Prayer or cowardice? Hard to tell which. Martha Pemberton turned away from her store window. Silas raised his boot over Ruth's head. Jem hit the ground running. "Morrison!" The name cracked like a rifle shot. Silas froze mid-stomp. Jem walked forward. Didn't rush. 10 years as a Texas Ranger taught her Matt. The walk was the weapon. The silence before it. "Ain't your concern, Hartley." Silas lowered his boot. "Ride on." "Can't. She's my wife. She's bleeding out in the street. My property, my business." Jem stopped 3 feet away, close enough to smell whiskey, close enough to count the blood drops on Silas's knuckles. Property. He let the word sit. "That what you call her?" "Law does." "Law also says you can't beat a person half dead in public." Jem's hand rested on his rifle. Easy, not threatening. Yet. "Seems we got a problem." The crowd shifted. Whispers rippled. Ruth tried to stand. Her arm buckled. She fell face first into bloody snow. Silas laughed. "Look at her. Pathetic. 15 years of marriage. 4 daughters. Not 1 son to carry my name. My father's land needs an heir, Hartley." "So you beat her for something God decides?" "She's cursed. Doctor said, doctor's a fool, and you're worse for believing him." Movement on the porch. Hannah handed the baby to Grace and stepped forward, fists clenched at her sides. "Leave Mama alone." Silas spun. "Hannah, get inside before I—" "Before what?" Jem's voice dropped. Cold. Dangerous. "You gonna hit your daughter too? Right here? In front of everyone?" Something flickered across Silas's face. Fear. Calculation. The town council seat he held. His father's name. Reputation. He stepped back from Ruth. "This ain't finished, Hartley." "Didn't figure it was." "She comes home tonight, or I get the sheriff to drag her back." "Sheriff can try." Quiet words. Simple. But Sheriff Brennan suddenly found his boots real interesting. Silas spat in the snow, stalked toward the saloon. 3 men followed. The rest stayed, watching, waiting, always waiting for someone else to act. Jem knelt beside Ruth. Worse up close, split lip, swelling eye, bruises on her throat, fingerprint-shaped. And beneath fresh wounds, older ones, yellow-green shadows, a nose healed crooked. Years of this. Years. "Ma'am?" She flinched. That single word from a man's mouth made her flinch. "I ain't gonna hurt you." Her good eye focused, blue like winter ice, empty, full, both at once. "Why?" Barely a whisper through broken teeth. No answer he could give, not with Clara and Samuel's graves fresh in his mind after 6 years, not with failure carved into his bones. "Can you stand?" "Don't know." He slid his arms under her. She weighed nothing, fear and bones. 15 years of surviving what should have killed her. He lifted her onto Ghost. "Hannah!" The girl's head snapped up. "Get your sisters, all of them, now." "Mister, we can't. Your mama needs help. My ranch is closer than anywhere. You coming, or you gonna stand there while she bleeds?" Hannah grabbed Grace's hand. Grace grabbed Lily. They ran. The crowd parted like water around stones. Jem mounted behind them, Ruth against his chest. 4 girls pressed together in front. "Hartley!" Sheriff Brennan found his voice. "You can't take a man's family." "Watching it happen. There'll be consequences." "Already are. You've just been ignoring them." Ghost moved forward. Martha Pemberton stepped from her store, pressed a bundle into his saddlebag as he passed. Medicine, bandages. "Take care of them," she said. "All of them." "Yes, ma'am." He rode out. Silas Morrison's voice followed them down the street. "I'll burn that ranch to the ground, Hartley. You hear me? I'll burn it all." Jem didn't look back. 23. 12 miles of frozen prairie. Bitter wind. Weak sun doing nothing against the cold. Ruth drifted in and out. Her blood soaked through his coat, warm, then cold. The girls huddled together, shivering, silent. 5 miles out, Grace spoke. "You gonna hurt Mama, too?" Jem pulled Ghost to a stop. Middle of nowhere, wind cutting through all of them. He dismounted, knelt in the snow, eye level with the 7-year-old. "What's your name?" "Grace." "Grace. I like that." He took off his hat, held it in both hands. "I ain't gonna hurt your mama. Not now. Not ever. None of you." Grace studied his face, looking for lies, looking for the signs she'd learned to read in her father. "Papa said nice things, too." "I reckon he did." "How do I know you're different?" "You don't. Not yet. Words are cheap. Only thing that proves different is time." Grace's jaw tightened. "Mama can't take more. She'll die." "I know." "Pearl needs her. She's only 3 days old."
I know that too.
If you hurt any of them, Grace's voice went flat, I'll kill you myself. Jem didn't smile, didn't dismiss her. 7 years old making death threats should have been funny, but her eyes held nothing childish. If I hurt them, I'll deserve it. Something shifted in Grace's face. Not trust. The seed of what might become trust. Maybe. He mounted. They rode. His ranch sat alone against the horizon. Cabin half finished. Barn solid. Nothing else for miles. 6 years ago, he'd planned to build more. Add rooms. plant trees, raise children with Clara. Then the fever took her. Took Samuel 3 days later. He stopped building, stopped planning, stopped everything but breathing. Now 5 strangers needed shelter, and his half-built life would have to be enough. Hannah. The girl was already moving, helping her sisters down. They got Ruth inside, onto the bed. Jem built a fire while Hannah stripped her mother's frozen clothes with practiced hands. She'd done this before, many times. Tended wounds, held the family together. 10 years old, carrying weight no child should know. Hot water's on the stove. He kept his back turned, giving them privacy. Clean rags in the trunk, medicine in my saddlebag. You ain't staying? Barn needs checking. Your mama don't need a man standing over her right now. She needs her girls. He reached the door. Hannah's voice stopped him. Most men would stay. Watch. I ain't most men. He left. Cold hit him like a fist. He welcomed it. Needed something to feel besides the rage building in his chest. 6 years avoiding other people's trouble. 6 years telling himself he was done with caring. Done with losing. But that scream. That sound of a woman who'd stopped expecting help. He'd heard it before. In nightmares. In Clara's voice when the fever took hold and the doctor said nothing more could be done. He couldn't save Clara. Couldn't save Samuel. But maybe, these 5. Maybe. Night fell fast. Every few hours, Jem crossed to the cabin. Not soft. Hannah's voice came through the door. Mama's sleeping. Fever's down some. Pearl took milk. Lily scared, but quiet. Midnight. The door opened. Ruth stood swaying, wrapped in a quilt, face swollen beyond recognition, one eye sealed shut. But the other eye was clear. Mr. Hartley. Ma'am, you should be in bed. Need to say something first. Mornings can't wait. She gripped the doorframe. I don't know what you want from us. Don't know why you did what you did. But whatever it is, her voice cracked, tell me now, so I can prepare my girls. Jem stood in the snow, looking at this shattered woman who expected nothing from the world but more pain. I don't want anything. Men always want something. Then maybe men need to change. That ain't an answer. No, ma'am. He took a breath. Here's truth. 6 years back, I lost my wife, Clara. Lost my son, too, Samuel. 3 days old, same as your Pearl. Fever took them both. Ruth's expression stayed fixed. Swelling made it impossible to read. I've been dead since then, going through motions, working, eating, sleeping, none of it meaning a damn thing. Then I heard you scream this morning, and something woke up in me. Your healing ain't my job. No, ma'am, and I ain't asking it to be. Just saying, you and your girls stay long as you need. No strings, no price. When you're healed enough to go, if that's what you want, I'll give you supplies and money for wherever. Ruth watched him. Wind cut between them, sharp and cold. Why should I believe that? Shouldn't. Not yet. Only time proves anything. And when Silas comes? Jem's jaw went tight. Then he finds out why I stopped being a ranger. Something flickered in Ruth's good eye. Not hope. The ghost of what hope used to look like. My girls are scared of men. All men. Even the kind ones. I know. Might never trust you. Any of you. That's their right. She swayed. He stepped forward, then stopped. Waited. You can help me in, she said quiet. Just this once. He crossed the distance. Let her lean on his arm. Bones and willpower. Nothing else holding her up.
Inside, 3 girls slept tangled together by the fire. Pearl fussed in a drawer turned crib. He helped Ruth to the bed, pulled blankets over her.
Mr. Hartley,
Ma'am?
my name's Ruth. Ruth Ann.
Jeremiah, Jem, mostly, the smallest nod. Thank you. For today. Rest now, Ruth Ann. He turned to leave. Jem, he stopped at the door. That thing about waking up. Her voice faded, sleep pulling her down. I've been dead too. Longer than 6 years. Maybe we're both learning how to breathe again. He didn't answer. Couldn't. He stepped into the cold, closed the door soft. Stars burned overhead, cold and far away. Somewhere, Silas Morrison was planning. Here, 5 broken people were sleeping under his roof. Jem walked to the barn, sat in the straw, didn't sleep, but for the first time in 6 years, he didn't want to. Morning came gray. Jem was splitting wood when Hannah appeared in the cabin doorway. Mama's still out. Good. Pearl needs milk. We ain't got any. Goat in the barn. Old, but she gives. You know how? We had goats, before Papa sold them for whiskey money. Then you're better at it than me. She kicks me every time. Almost a smile crossed Hannah's face. Gone fast. Grace is drawing. She likes to draw? Only when she feels safe. A test. Jem heard it. Then I'm glad she feels safe enough. Hannah crossed the yard, stopped halfway. Mr. Jem. Ma'am? If this is a trick, her small hands curled tight. Mama might trust you. Grace too. Maybe Lily. But I won't. Not ever. I'll be watching. Always. Grace already told me she'd kill me if I hurt any of you. Hannah blinked. She did? She did. I told her if I hurt you, I'd deserve it. Telling you the same. Hannah stared at him for a long moment, then nodded once, sharp, and walked to the barn. Jem watched her go. 10 years old, already carrying the world, eyes that trusted nothing. She reminded him of himself, same age, after his own father's fists. Maybe that's why he'd stopped yesterday. Some debts take a lifetime to pay. He picked up the axe, split another log. The sound rang across empty prairie like a heartbeat waking up. By noon, the girls found rhythm. Hannah milked the goat, fed Pearl. Grace drew by the fire, birds, horses, a cabin with smoke rising. Lily followed Jem everywhere. What's your horse called? Ghost. Why? She's gray, quiet. Can I pet her? Gentle-like. I'm always gentle. Papa said I was too soft, needed toughening. Jem stopped, knelt, met her eyes. Nothing wrong with gentle, Lily. World's hard enough. Gentle is valuable. Her face scrunched. Valuable? Worth something. Worth a lot. Papa said I wasn't worth nothing. Your papa was wrong. Lily thought about this with 5-year-old seriousness. I like you, Mr. Cowboy. I like you too, Miss Lily. She grabbed his hand, small frozen fingers, and pulled him toward the barn. First time in 6 years, Jem felt something besides grief. Felt like mourning after a long dark. That night, Ruth sat up for supper. They ate around her bed, Jem on a stool by the door, girls on the floor, beans and cornbread. Simple. But the fire was warm, and nobody was bleeding. Girls, Ruth said, voice still rough, mind your manners. Thank you, Mr. Jem. Welcome. Lily looked up, crumbs on her chin. Mr. Cowboy, you got kids? Silence crashed down. Hannah glared daggers at her sister.
Ruth's breath caught. Jem set his spoon down slow. Had a son. Samuel. Lived 3 days.
Lily's eyes went wide.
He in heaven?
I reckon.
He lonely up there?
Hope not. His mama's with him. Clara.
Then he ain't lonely. Mamas fix everything.
Yes, ma'am, they do. Ruth's good eye glistened. She turned away fast.
Lily, Hannah hissed, stop asking.
It's all right. Jem's voice stayed steady. Good to say their names. Been too long. Quiet settled. Different this time. Shared. Grace stood, crossed to Jem, held out a paper covered in charcoal. For you. 5 stick figures holding hands. Tall man, woman. 4 small shapes in a row. Underneath, in crooked letters, family. Jem's throat closed tight.
Thank you, Grace. It's beautiful.
She nodded, went back to her spot. Ruth watched. Something cracked behind her eyes. First fissure in walls built over 15 years.
Mr. Jem?
Ma'am?
That offer. About staying. Still good? I ain't ready to trust you. Might not ever be.
I understand.
But tonight,
she paused.
Tonight, I'm going to believe you mean what you say.
That's enough. For now. Wind screamed outside. Somewhere out there, Silas Morrison gathered men. In here, 5 broken souls huddled together. Worth fighting for. Jem knew that now. He just didn't know yet how hard that fight would be. The storm hit at midnight. Jem heard it coming before he saw it. Wind shifting, temperature dropping. That particular howl that meant blizzard. He'd survived enough Wyoming winters to know this one would be bad. He crossed to the cabin, knocked twice. Storm coming, bad one. I'm bringing the goat inside. Hannah's voice. Inside where? Cabin, only choice. He hauled the goat in, set her in the corner. Pearl started crying. Lily started crying. The goat bleated. Ruth struggled to sit up.
How long?
3, 4 days, maybe more.
We got enough food?
Enough. Water, too. Firewood might run low, but I stacked some by the door. She nodded.
You staying in the barn?
Have to. Keep the horse calm.
You'll freeze.
Got blankets.
You'll still freeze.
Their eyes met. Something passed between them. I'll be fine, Ruth Ann.
You better be. Girls are just starting to...
She stopped, shook her head.
Just don't die out there.
Yes, ma'am. He stepped out into the wind. 4 days trapped. 5 people who barely knew each other. A husband out there planning vengeance. And a storm that would change everything. Jem pulled his coat tight and walked into the howling white. The blizzard buried them alive. First night, wind tore at the cabin walls like something hungry. Jem checked the door every hour, piling snow against gaps to seal out cold. The girls slept in a pile by the fire, tangled together like puppies. Ruth drifted in and out, fever spiking with the dropping temperature. Second morning, Jem couldn't see his hand in front of his face outside. White everywhere. No up, no down, no direction. He made it to the barn by following the rope he'd strung between buildings. Ghost was calm. The silence of the horse told him this storm had more to give. He fought his way back to the cabin. How bad? Ruth asked from the bed. Seen worse. Liar. Almost a smile. First one he'd seen from her. Fine. Ain't seen worse, but we'll make it. Hannah looked up from feeding Pearl.
How long?
Another 2 days, maybe 3.
We got food?
Enough. Barely. Grace stopped drawing.
What about the goat?
She's in the corner eating your mama's quilt. Lily giggled, first real laugh since they'd arrived. The sound hit Jem somewhere deep.
Mr. Cowboy, can I name the goat?
She ain't got a name?
You didn't give her one?
Never thought to. Lily's face scrunched with concentration.
Daisy. She looks like a daisy. Daisy it is.
Ruth watched this exchange with something shifting in her eyes. Not trust yet, but the ice cracking. You should eat something, Jem told her. Keep your strength. Ain't hungry. Don't recall asking if you was hungry. Said you should eat. Her jaw tightened. You giving me orders now? I'm asking you not to die in my cabin. Girls need their mama. The words hit hard. Ruth looked at her daughters, then back at him.
Fine, but only because they need me, not because you said. Whatever gets food in you. He handed her a bowl of beans. Their fingers touched. Both pulled back fast. Hannah noticed. Her eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. The second day crawled. Wind never stopped. Temperature dropped until breath froze in the air. Jem fed the fire constantly, rationing wood, calculating how long they could last. The girls grew restless. Lily bounced off walls. Grace drew until she ran out of paper, then started drawing on the floor with ash. Hannah paced like a caged animal. Only Ruth stayed still, watching, thinking. The swelling on her face had gone down some. Both eyes open now, though the left was still purple-black. Tell me about Clara. The question came out of nowhere. Middle of the afternoon. Girls occupied with a game Hannah invented using buttons and string. Jem looked up from the harness he was mending. What do you want to know? Whatever you want to tell. He set the harness down, stared at the fire. Met her in San Antonio. I was 22. She was a school teacher. Prettiest thing I ever saw. The words came slow, rusty from disuse. She had this laugh, like bells ringing. Made you feel like the world wasn't such a hard place. Ruth listened without interrupting. We married 6 months later. Moved up here to start fresh. I had dreams about this ranch. Big dreams. Horses, cattle, children. What happened? Winter happened. Clara got pregnant our first year. Was harder than we expected. Then the baby came early. Samuel. Jem's voice caught. He was so small, like holding a bird. Lived 3 days. Just long enough to make us love him forever. Ruth's good hand found her chest, over her heart. Clara got the fever after. Doctor couldn't do nothing. I sat with her for 2 days while she burned up. She kept asking for Samuel. Didn't have the heart to tell her he was already gone. I'm sorry. Me too. Jem picked up the harness again. Something to do with his hands. Buried them both on the hill behind the cabin. Visit sometimes. Mostly don't. Hurts too much. Silence stretched between them. Silas hit me the first time on our wedding night. Jem's hands went still. I was 17. Didn't know nothing about men, about marriage. He said I looked at his brother wrong during the ceremony. Beat me till I couldn't stand. Ruth, no. You told me yours. I'm telling you mine. Her voice stayed flat, like reciting facts about someone else. 15 years. Every time I got pregnant, he'd stop. For a few months. Then the baby would come, and it wouldn't be a boy, and he'd start again. Worse each time. Why didn't you run? Where? Ruth laughed, bitter. I got no family, no money, 4 daughters. What man wants another man's daughters? What town wants a runaway wife? So you stayed. I survived. There's a difference. She finally looked at him. I stopped being Ruth Ann a long time ago. Became something else. Something that could take the hits and keep the girls alive. You're still Ruth Ann. You don't know that.
I'm looking at her right now. Their eyes locked. Something passed between them. Understanding. Recognition. Two broken people, seeing each other clearly for the first time. Hannah's voice cut through.
Mama, Pearl's crying.
The moment shattered. Ruth struggled up. Jem didn't help. She hadn't asked. The second night was worse. Temperature dropped so low the water bucket froze solid. Jem broke ice every hour to keep them drinking. The girls huddled closer. Even Daisy the goat pressed against the fire. Around midnight, Lily woke screaming.
Papa's coming! Papa's coming to get us!
Ruth held her, rocking, whispering, but Lily couldn't stop shaking.
He's gonna hurt Mama again. He's gonna burn everything.
Shh, baby. Papa's not here.
He said he would. He said he'd burn Mr. Cowboy's house down.
Jem knelt beside them. Lily, look at me. Red-rimmed eyes found his. You hear that wind outside? She nodded. That wind won't let nobody through. Not tonight, not tomorrow. Your papa can't get here even if he tried.
Promise?
Promise. And after the storm? I'll keep you safe then, too. How? Because that's what family does. Lily's crying slowed. Are we family? The question hung in the frozen air. Ruth stiffened. Hannah watched from her blankets. We can be, Jem said quietly, if you want. Lily threw her arms around his neck, small body shaking with sobs and relief. I want us to be family. Over her shoulder, Jem met Ruth's eyes. Something in them he hadn't seen before. Something like hope. Third day. The storm finally weakened. Wind died to a moan instead of a scream. Snow kept falling, but lighter now. Jem made it to the barn and back without losing the rope. Tomorrow, he told them. Day after, at most. We'll be free. Hannah looked up. Then what? Then we figure out what comes next. Papa will come. Probably. What are you going to do? Whatever I have to. You'll fight him? If that's what it takes. He'll bring men, the sheriff, maybe more. I know. Hannah studied him with those two old eyes. Why? Why risk all this for us? Jem thought about lying, giving her some noble speech about duty and honor. But Hannah had heard enough lies to last a lifetime. Because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. That ain't enough. Maybe not for most folks. It's enough for me. Ruth spoke from the bed. Hannah, let him be. Mama, I said let him be. Man's got his reasons. Don't got to explain them all to you. Hannah's jaw tightened, but she nodded and turned away. Grace appeared at Jem's elbow, held out another drawing. This one showed the cabin, snow all around. Inside the window, 5 figures sat by a fire. Safe. Together. Underneath, safe now. That's beautiful, Grace. It's us. I can see that. I never drew us safe before. Always drew us hiding, running. Now we're safe. Jem's throat closed tight. This child who barely spoke had just said more than most adults managed in a lifetime. You are safe, Grace. I promise. She nodded once, went back to her spot. Ruth watched the whole thing. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. They're starting to love you. They're just grateful. No, it's more than that. Hannah's fighting it, but even she's cracking. Grace doesn't draw for just anyone. And Lily? Ruth shook her head. Lily's already yours. Ruth, don't pretend you don't see it. Don't pretend you don't feel it. He couldn't answer, couldn't deny it. What happens when Silas takes us back?
He ain't taking you anywhere.
The law stood and watched him beat you in the street. The law don't get a say no more. You can't fight the whole world, Jem.
Don't have to. Just have to fight one man.
Ruth was quiet for a long moment. I've been fighting 15 years. Fighting to survive. Fighting to protect my girls. I'm tired, Jem. Bone tired. The kind of tired that makes you think about not waking up.
Don't talk like that.
It's the truth. Only thing kept me going was them.
She looked at her daughters.
They deserve better than me. Better than what I can give. You're wrong. I'm realistic. No, you're broken. There's a difference.
Jem leaned forward.
Broken can be fixed. Realistic just gives up.
Easy for you to say.
Easy?
Something dark crossed his face. I buried my wife and son in frozen ground with my own hands. Dug those graves while my fingers went numb.
I know exactly how hard it is to keep going when everything inside you wants to stop. Ruth met his eyes, saw the pain there, the same pain she carried.
Then how?
Her voice cracked.
How do you do it?
One day at a time, 1 hour, 1 minute if that's all you got. You just keep breathing until breathing starts to matter again.
Does it start to matter?
Jem looked at her daughters, at Hannah's stubborn jaw, Grace's quiet drawings, Lily's fierce love, baby Pearl sleeping peaceful.
Yeah, he said, it does.
Night fell. Last night of the storm. The girls slept early, worn out from days of confinement. Even Hannah's watchful eyes finally closed. Ruth couldn't sleep. Neither could Jem. They sat by the dying fire, close enough to whisper without waking the children.
I was a mail-order bride, Ruth said. My papa sold me to Silas for $50 and a mule.
Jem said nothing, just listened.
I didn't know what marriage meant. Thought it was like the stories.
Love and partnership and building something together. Took me one night to learn different.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Be angry. I spent 15 years being sorry. Sorry got me nothing but more beatings.
I'm angry too.
Good, Ruth's jaw set. I want him to pay for every hit, every scar, every time my girls had to hide under the bed while he raged. I want him to feel what we felt.
That can be arranged.
No, she shook her head. That's the thing.
I want it, but I don't want you to do it. Not because it's wrong, because then you become what he is, and I can't—
Her voice broke.
I can't lose another good man to violence.
Ruth.
I know I ain't got the right. We barely know each other. But something happened these past days, something I can't explain. You feel it too. I know you do.
Jem didn't deny it.
If you kill him, even if he deserves it, it changes you. I've seen it happen. Watched my father kill a man who crossed him.
He was never the same after. The violence got inside him. Stayed there. So what do you want me to do? Let him take you back?
No, but there has to be another way. Legal. Proper. Something that doesn't destroy you in the process.
The law's on his side.
Local law? What about federal? What about territorial judges?
Jem went still.
What?
Ruth asked.
Judge William Thorne, Fort Laramie. We were rangers together in Texas. He owes me his life.
Would he help?
He'd try.
Man's got no patience for woman beaters. Lost his sister to one. Then send for him. Storm's got to break first. Then it's a day's ride to Fort Laramie. Another day back. That's 3 days at least. Silas will come before then.
Then we hold out 3 days. We can do 3 days.
Ruth, if Silas brings enough men,
then we fight together. Not to kill, but to survive. Long enough for your judge to get here.
Jem studied her face, the bruises fading, the strength emerging. This wasn't the broken woman he'd lifted from the snow 4 days ago. "You've changed."
I remembered who I was. Before Silas. Before everything.
Ruth's chin lifted.
My mama used to say I was stubborn as a mule and twice as mean when cornered. Maybe she was right.
I believe it. Almost a smile. That's supposed to be a compliment? Highest one I know. They sat in silence, fire crackling low, wind dying to nothing outside. "When this is over," Ruth said quietly, "whatever happens, I want you to know these past days meant something. To me. To my girls. Meant something to me too. Even if I could never be what Clara was. Don't." Jem's voice was firm but gentle. "Clara was Clara. You're Ruth Ann. I ain't looking for a replacement. I'm looking for something new. Something different. What if I'm too broken? What if we both are?" Ruth laughed softly. First genuine laugh he'd heard from her. "Fine pair we make. Two broken people trying to put each other together."
Maybe that's how it works. Maybe you can't fix yourself. Only someone else can do it.
That's some kind of philosophy?
Just something I've been thinking these past days.
Ruth reached out, took his hand. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was strong.
"Whatever comes," she said, "we face it together."
Together. The fire died to embers. Outside, silence fell for the first time in 3 days. The storm was over. What came next would be worse. Dawn broke clear and cold. Jem stepped outside to a world transformed. Snow covered everything, 3 feet deep in places, drifts piled high against the barn. The air tasted clean, dangerous clean, the kind of clean that came before something bad. He saddled Ghost while the girls ate breakfast. Ruth met him at the barn door. "I'm riding to the Pemberton place," he told her. "Martha's got a fast horse. She can get a message to Fort Laramie quicker than anyone." "You trust her?" "She helped us once. She'll help again." "What if Silas is watching the road?" "Then I'll deal with him." Ruth grabbed his arm. Don't go looking for a fight." "I ain't looking, but I ain't running either." She held on a moment longer, then let go. "Come back." "Plan to." He mounted Ghost and rode toward town. The road was hard going, snow deep and crusted. Ghost picked her way careful. 2 hours to cover what usually took 30 minutes. He was a mile from the Pemberton place when he saw the smoke. Black smoke, rising thick against the white sky. Jem kicked Ghost into a run. Martha Pemberton's homestead was burning. The house, the barn, everything. Flames licked at the sky while black smoke poured upward. And standing in the snow, watching it burn, were 4 men on horseback. Silas Morrison, Sheriff Brennan, 2 others Jem didn't recognize. Martha stood in her nightgown, gray hair loose, watching her life turn to ash. Helloless. Destroyed. Silas saw Jem coming. Smiled. "Hartley, come to see the show?" Jem pulled Ghost to a stop, hand on his rifle. 4 against 1. Bad odds. "What did you do?" "Me? Nothing. Terrible accident. Old woman's stove caught fire. Such a tragedy." Martha's voice cut through. "Liar! You set this fire. I saw you." "Careful, Martha." Silas's smile never wavered. "Making accusations you can't prove is dangerous business. People might think you're crazy. Old. Confused." Sheriff Brennan looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. Jem dismounted, walked toward Silas. "That's close enough, Hartley. Where's my wife? Where are my daughters?" "Safe, at my ranch." "Liar." "Am I?" Silas leaned forward in his saddle. See, I know where they are. Martha here was going to help you get a message to Fort Laramie. Now she can't help nobody. And by the time you find another way to reach your ranger friend, this will all be over.
What do you want, Silas? What's mine, my wife, my property, my daughters?
They ain't property. Law says different. I don't care what the law says. Silas's smile faded. You should, because I got the law right here. He gestured at the sheriff. And I got papers, legal papers, says Ruth Ann Morrison belongs to me. Says those girls are mine to raise as I see fit. Over my dead body. That can be arranged. The two strangers reached for their guns. Martha screamed.
Jem drew. 1 shot. 2.
Both strangers fell from their horses, clutching arms. Not dead. Not yet. But out of the fight. Silas and the sheriff sat frozen, staring at the gun in Jem's hand. Draw, Jem said quiet. Give me a reason. Silas's face went red. You shot my men! Wing them. They'll live. More than they deserve. This is murder! Sheriff, arrest this man! Brennan's hand hadn't moved toward his gun. Smart man. Well, Silas screamed, do your job!
He drew on me first, Jem said. Both of them. Ask Martha.
He's right. Martha's voice was steady despite the flames behind her. I saw everything. Your men drew first. She's lying. You calling me a liar, Silas Morrison? Martha stepped forward. You, who just burned down my home? You, who beats his wife in the street? You want to talk about lies? Silas's face twisted with rage. But he saw the calculation in Jem's eyes, saw the rifle still smoking, saw his 2 men bleeding in the snow. This ain't over, Hartley. Never thought it was. I'll be back, with more men, with federal marshals if I have to. And when I'm done, you'll be swinging from a rope, and my family will be home where they belong. Looking forward to it. Silas wheeled his horse. Brennan, get my men. We're leaving. The sheriff dismounted, helped the wounded men onto their horses. Couldn't meet Jem's eyes. You know this is wrong, Jem told him quiet. You know what he is. Brennan said nothing, mounted up, rode away. Silas's voice carried back. 3 days, Hartley. 3 days, and I'm coming with an army. Jem watched them go, then turned to Martha. You all right? I'm alive. That's more than I expected when they showed up. She looked at her burning home. 60 years of memories. Gone. I'm sorry. Don't be. Was time for a change anyway. Martha squared her shoulders. Take me to your ranch.
I'll tend those girls while you figure out how to stop that monster. Martha, don't argue. I got nothing left here. Might as well make myself useful.
Jem helped her onto Ghost, mounted behind her. They rode toward his ranch while smoke rose behind them. 3 days. 3 days to find a way to save them all, or lose everything again. Martha Pemberton took one look at Ruth's face and started crying. Not gentle tears, hard, angry sobs that shook her whole body. 60 years old, and she wept like a child, seeing something break that couldn't be fixed.
Oh, honey. Oh, sweet girl.
Ruth stood frozen in the doorway. Nobody had called her sweet in 15 years. I knew it was bad, Martha said between sobs.
We all knew. But seeing it...
It's healing now. Ruth's voice was flat. Been worse.
That ain't comfort. That ain't comfort at all.
The girls watched from the fireplace. Hannah's face was stone. Grace held Pearl tight. Lily hid behind her sisters. Martha wiped her eyes, drew herself up. Well,
We got work to do and 3 days to do it. Feeling sorry don't help nobody."
3 days? Ruth looked at Jem. What happened?
Silas burned Martha's place. Tried to stop me from reaching Fort Laramie.
Did he?
He's alive. His men are wounded, and he's coming back with an army. Ruth's hands started shaking. She pressed them against her thighs to still them.
What do we do?
We prepare.
And we pray Judge Thorne gets here in time. How? Martha was supposed to send the message. Jem pulled a piece of paper from his coat. Wrote it before I left. Gave it to a boy heading to Fort Laramie for supplies. Paid him $20 to ride fast. A boy. Silas was watching the road, wasn't watching the hills. Kid knows the back trails better than anyone. Ruth let out a breath she didn't know she was holding.
Will he make it?
Don't know, but it's our best shot,
Hannah spoke up.
What if he doesn't? What if the judge doesn't come? Jem met her eyes. Then we fight. Against how many? However many he brings. We'll lose. Maybe, but your mama ain't going back to him, not while I'm breathing. Hannah stared at him for a long moment. Something shifted in her face. Not trust, not yet, but something close. Tell me what to do, she said. I ain't sitting around waiting to be taken.
Hannah, Ruth started. No, Mama. I'm 10 years old.
I seen things most grown folks ain't seen. If we're fightin', I'm fightin' too. Jem looked at this child, who'd been forced to grow up too fast. Saw the iron in her spine, the fire in her eyes. All right. You can help me fortify the cabin. Think you can handle a hammer?
I can handle anything.
I believe it. That first day, they worked until their hands bled. Jem boarded windows. Hannah passed him nails, steady and sure. Ruth melted snow for water, storing every drop. Martha organized supplies, counting and recounting, stretching what little they had. Grace kept the younger ones calm, drawing pictures to distract them. Lily helped by staying out of the way. Pearl slept, oblivious to the danger closing in. By nightfall, the cabin looked like a fortress, ugly but solid. It ain't much, Jem admitted, but it'll slow them down. Ruth surveyed the work. Slow them down ain't stopping them. No, but every minute counts. Judge Thorne rides fast when lives are at stake. You trust him that much? With my life. Did once before. What happened? Story for another time, when we ain't got killers coming. Ruth nodded. Didn't push. That night, nobody slept much. Jem sat by the door, rifle across his lap. Ruth sat beside him, close enough to touch, but not touching. Tell me about the girls, he said quietly. Things I should know, in case... Don't. Ruth, don't talk like we're dying tomorrow. We ain't dying.
I need to know them, understand them. If something happens and I have to... Nothing's happening. We're all getting through this. Jem fell silent. Ruth was quiet for a long moment. Then she started talking. Hannah was born screaming. Came into the world angry and ain't stopped since. She's the one who keeps us together. Always has been. Even when she was 5, she'd put herself between me and Silas. Take hits meant for me. She shouldn't have to. No, she shouldn't.
But she did anyway. That's who she is. And Grace? Grace stopped talking when she was 4. Silas threw her against a wall for crying too loud. Something broke inside her. Not her body. Her voice. She didn't speak for 2 years, just drew pictures. That's how she tells you things. Through the drawings. Jem thought about the pictures Grace had given him. The family holding hands. The cabin with smoke rising. Safe now. She's talking again. Started a few months ago, but only when she feels safe.
only to people she trusts. Ruth looked at him. She talks to you more than she's talked to anyone in years. I don't know why. I do. You see her. Most folks look through her. You look at her.
She's worth looking at. Ruth's breath caught.
That's why she trusts you.
What about Lily?
Lily's sunshine in the thunderstorm. Don't know how she stayed that way. Silas beat the light out of the rest of us. But Lily, she just kept shining.
Like she knew something we didn't. And Pearl? Ruth's face softened. Pearl's a miracle. I didn't think I'd survive another pregnancy. The labor almost killed me. But she came out perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, lungs like a church organ. She's beautiful. She's everything. All 4 of them are. Every hit I took, every bone that broke, every night I thought about not waking up, I kept going for them. They're the only good thing I ever did with my life. Jem turned to face her.
That ain't true.
What else is there? You survived. 15 years of hell, and you survived. That takes something most folks don't have. Cowardice, that's what it takes. I was too scared to leave, and too scared to die. Bull. The word came out hard. Fear would have made you give up. You didn't give up. You kept fighting, every single day. Ruth's eyes glistened. Don't make me into something I ain't. I ain't making you anything. Just seeing what's there. She turned away, wiped her eyes. Get some sleep, Jem. Tomorrow's going to be hard. I don't sleep much. Neither do I, but we should try. They sat in silence until dawn turned the sky gray. Second day. Tension thick as smoke. Martha taught the girls how to load rifles. Not to shoot, just to load. Extra hands meant extra time. Like this, she showed Grace. Powder, ball, ram it down. Quick, but careful. Grace's small hands moved precise and steady. Good girl. You're a natural. Hannah watched with hungry eyes. Teach me to shoot. You're 10 years old. I'm old enough to die. I'm old enough to fight. Martha looked at Jem. He nodded once. All right, but you listen to everything I say, and you don't touch that rifle unless I tell you. Yes, ma'am. They spent the morning behind the barn. The sound of shots echoed across empty prairie. Ruth stood at the cabin door, watching. She shouldn't have to learn that. Jem stood beside her. No, but she wants to protect her family. Can't fault her for that. She's a child. Was a child. Silas took that away. Ruth's jaw tightened. I hate him. I've never hated anyone like I hate him. That's normal. Is it? Because sometimes the hate feels bigger than me, like it could swallow everything. What keeps it from swallowing? Ruth looked back at the cabin, at Lily playing with Grace, at Pearl sleeping in Martha's arms. Them. Always them. Midday brought visitors. Jem saw the dust first. Single rider coming fast from town. He grabbed his rifle. Everyone inside! The girls scrambled. Martha herded them like a general. Ruth grabbed Pearl and ran. Jem waited on the porch. The rider came closer, slowed, stopped at the property line. Reverend Elijah Crane sat on his horse, Bible in hand, face drawn tight. Preacher, Jem said. Long way from town. Mr. Hartley, I need to speak with you. So speak. May I approach? Depends on why you're here. Crane hesitated, then dismounted, walked forward with hands visible. I came to warn you. Silas Morrison is gathering men, not just locals. He sent word to mining camps, cattle drives, anyone willing to earn $1 for a day's work. How many? 15, maybe 20.
They'll be here tomorrow at dawn." Jem's blood went cold. That's an army. Yes, it is. Why are you telling me this? Crane looked at the ground. Because I was wrong. I stood in that street and watched him beat her. Told myself it wasn't my place to interfere, that God would sort it out. His voice cracked. I've been preaching about Christian charity for 30 years, but when it mattered, when someone needed help, I did nothing. Pretty words, little late. I know, but I'm here now. Crane reached into his coat. Jem tensed. Easy, just this. He pulled out a rolled paper, held it out. Jem took it, unrolled it, read. His hands started shaking. Where did you get this? Sheriff Brennan's desk. He don't know I took it. This is testimony from the doctor who delivered Pearl. Silas paid him to say Ruth was cursed, barren of sons by God's judgment. But that ain't what the doctor wrote. The doctor wrote that Silas Morrison beat his wife so bad during every pregnancy that it's a miracle any child survived at all. Said the reason she keeps having girls is because the violence damages. Crane's voice broke. It ain't fit to repeat. Jem stared at the paper. Evidence. Real evidence. This could save them. That's why I brought it, along with this. Crane pulled out another paper. Statements from 3 women in town. Witnessed beatings. Dates, times, injuries. They were too scared to speak up while Silas had power. But they ain't scared no more. Why now? What changed? Martha Pemberton's house burning down. That was the final straw. Folks realized if Silas would do that to a 60-year-old widow, he'd do it to anyone. Crane met Jem's eyes. You got more support than you know, Mr. Hartley. Not everyone, but enough. Enough for what? Enough to stand with you when the time comes. Ruth appeared in the doorway. Reverend? Crane couldn't look at her. Mrs. Morrison, I owe you an apology that words can't cover. I failed you. Failed your children. Failed everything I claimed to believe in. Yes, you did. The words hit Crane like stones. He flinched, but didn't defend himself. But, Ruth continued, you're here now. That's something. It ain't enough. No, it ain't. But it's a start. Crane nodded, mounted his horse. Tomorrow at dawn, I'll be back, with whoever's willing to stand. You could get killed. Maybe, but I could also get forgiven. He looked at the sky. I've spent my whole life talking about faith. Tomorrow I find out if I got any. He rode away. Jem turned to Ruth, held out the papers. She read them. Her face went white, then red, then something beyond color, something raw and broken. He knew. Her voice was barely a whisper. All those years he blamed me, called me cursed. But he knew. He knew it was him. Ruth. He beat our babies. Not just me. Them. Before they were even born. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be angry. She looked up, eyes burning. I want him to pay for this. Not just jail. I want him to suffer like we suffered. The law. Damn the law. The law let this happen. The law watched while he destroyed us. She was shaking now, rage pouring out of 15 years of silence. Ruth, listen to me. I'm done listening. I'm done being quiet. I'm done. Ruth! Jem grabbed her shoulders, forced her to meet his eyes. I hear you. I see you. And you're right. The law failed. But right now, this paper is our best weapon. Not guns, not fists. This. It's not enough. It might be. Judge Thorne is a federal authority. The This evidence gives him grounds to arrest Silas for assault, fraud, and abuse. Real charges. Prison time. What if he doesn't come? Ruth's rage slowly dimmed. Not gone, never gone, but banked, controlled.
I want my daughters to see him fall, she said quietly. I want them to know that evil don't always win.
That sometimes, good people stand up, and the bad ones get what they deserve. Then help me make that happen. Not with hate. With this. He held up the papers. With truth. Ruth took a breath, then another. All right, what do we do? That night they planned. Martha organized the evidence, cross-referenced dates, built a timeline of abuse that no judge could ignore. Ruth told her story, every detail, every scar, every broken bone and blackened eye. Martha wrote it all down. Hannah listened from the shadows. When her mother finished, she stepped forward. I got things to add.
Hannah, you don't have to. Yes, I do.
Hannah's voice was steel.
I remember things Mama don't know I remember. Things I saw when she thought I was sleeping.
What followed broke Jem's heart into pieces. A 10-year-old describing violence no child should witness. A 5-year-old pushed downstairs. A mother dragged by her hair while her daughters screamed. By the end, Martha was crying. Ruth was crying. Even Jem's eyes burned. Only Hannah stayed dry. She'd cried those tears years ago. Nothing left now but anger.
You got all that? She asked Martha. I got it, sweetheart. Good. Make sure the judge sees every word. Grace appeared, held out a stack of drawings. Not the happy ones she'd given Jem. These were different. Dark. Violent. A man with raised fists. A woman on the ground. Children hiding behind furniture. These too,
Grace whispered.
For the judge.
Ruth pulled both girls into her arms, held them tight. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you better.
You kept us alive, Mama.
Hannah's voice was muffled against Ruth's shoulder.
That's all that matters. It wasn't enough.
It was everything. They held each other while Jem stood guard and Martha organized evidence, and the night grew darker. Tomorrow, everything would change, one way or another. Dawn came cold and gray. Jem had been watching since midnight, saw the first rider crest the hill as the sun touched the horizon. Then another, and another.
They're here.
Ruth joined him at the window. Her face was pale, but steady.
How many?
Can't tell yet. At least a dozen.
The Reverend?
Don't see him.
He's not coming.
Maybe. Maybe not. Either way, we planned for this. Ruth nodded, went to wake the girls. Martha loaded rifles. 3 of them, laid out on the table. More than they had hands for, but she loaded them anyway. If we get overrun, she told Ruth, you take the girls through the back window. There's a root cellar 50 yards behind the barn. Hide there. Don't come out no matter what you hear.
Martha, promise me.
Ruth hesitated, then nodded.
I promise.
Good. Now let's show these boys what happens when they mess with the wrong family. The riders stopped at the property line. Jem counted them. 18 men. Silas in front, Sheriff Brennan beside him. The rest a mix of hired guns and local thugs. Behind them, tied to a horse, was the boy Jem had paid to take his message. His stomach dropped. Silas smiled. Looking for someone, Hartley? Let the boy go. He's got nothing to do with this. He tried to deliver a message to Fort Laramie. That makes him involved. Silas gestured to one of his men, who shoved the boy off the horse. He fell hard into the snow. Don't worry, he's alive. For now.
What do you want, Silas?
You know what I want. My wife, my daughters, and you swinging from a rope for kidnapping and assault. Ain't gonna happen. No, Silas laughed. Look around, Hartley. 18 men. I got the law on my side. I got the numbers. What do you got? A broken-down cabin and a handful of women? The cabin door opened. Ruth stepped onto the porch, rifle in her hands, eyes hard as granite. He's got me. Silas's smile flickered. Ruth, put that down before you hurt yourself. 15 years you told me what to do. Hit me when I didn't obey. 15 years I took it. Not anymore. You think a rifle makes you dangerous? You can't even... Ruth fired. The shot tore through the air, close enough to Silas's head to part his hair. His horse reared. He barely kept his seat. Next one goes between your eyes. Ruth's voice didn't shake. I ain't the woman you married, Silas. I ain't the woman you beat. I'm something new, and I ain't afraid of you no more. Silence fell over the property. The hired guns shifted uneasily. They'd signed up to intimidate a rancher and collect some runaways. Nobody said anything about a woman who could shoot. Sheriff Brennan spoke up. Mrs. Morrison, put down the weapon. You're only making this worse. Worse? Ruth laughed, harsh and bitter. Worse than 15 years of hell? Worse than having my babies damaged before they were born? Yeah, I know about that now. Got the doctor's testimony right here. Silas's face went white. That's right, Ruth continued. Your man talked, wrote it all down. How you paid him to lie. How you blamed me for what you did. She's lying. I got 3 witnesses too, women from town, ready to testify about every beating they saw. The hired guns exchanged glances. This wasn't what they'd been told. This is madness, Silas screamed. She's my wife. Those are my daughters. The law. The law is coming. A new voice, coming from behind the Morrison men. Jem's heart leaped. Reverend Crane rode into view. Behind him, 8 men and women from town. Armed. Grim-faced. Ready. What is this? Silas sputtered. Justice. Crane positioned himself between the 2 groups. Something that's been missing from Silver Creek for too long. You're a preacher, not a lawman. No, but he is. From the hill behind Jem's cabin, more riders appeared. Judge William Thorne, 2 federal deputies, and a badge that gleamed in the morning light. Jem let out a breath he'd been holding for 3 days. Silas Morrison. Thorne's voice carried across the snow. By the authority of the Federal Territorial Court, I'm placing you under arrest for aggravated assault, fraud, and abuse resulting in bodily harm. This is absurd. I'm a respected... You're a monster. Thorne dismounted, walked forward until he stood face to face with Silas. I've read the testimony. I've seen the evidence. You beat your wife near to death for giving you daughters instead of sons. You damaged your own children before they were born. And you did it all while hiding behind the law. I want my lawyer. You'll get one. In federal prison, where you'll stand trial for crimes that make decent men sick. Silas's eyes darted, looking for escape, finding none. His hired guns were backing away. Nobody wanted part of this anymore. Sheriff Brennan cleared his throat. Judge Thorne, sir, I should inform you that I have legal papers. Worthless. Thorne didn't even look at him. Any local ruling is superseded by federal authority, and I'm exercising that authority right now. Brennan's mouth opened, closed. He had nothing. Deputies, Thorne gestured, take Mr. Morrison into custody. The 2 men moved forward. Silas snapped. He drew his pistol, pointed it at Ruth. Nobody's taking me anywhere. Jem was moving before Silas finished speaking. He hit the ground between Ruth and the gun. Jem, no! Silas pulled the trigger. The shot echoed across the prairie. Jem waited for pain, for blood, for the familiar feeling of life draining away. Nothing.
He opened his eyes. Silas stood frozen, pistol smoking in his hand. But the bullet hadn't hit Jem. It had hit the porch post. Because Hannah Morrison, 10 years old and terrified and brave beyond measure, had shoved her mother aside and knocked Jem off balance in the same moment. The three of them lay tangled on the porch while Silas stared in disbelief. "You missed," Hannah said, and there was something fierce and triumphant in her voice. "You always said I was worthless, but I just saved them both." Silas raised his gun again. 3 rifles cracked simultaneously. Thorne, Crane, and Martha Pemberton, who'd been aiming since the moment Silas drew. Silas Morrison fell from his horse and didn't get up. Not dead. The shots had taken him in the shoulder, the hip, the leg. Deliberate, precise. Enough to stop him, not enough to kill. "Surgeon!" Thorne barked. One of the townspeople rushed forward. Ruth scrambled to her feet, looked at her husband bleeding in the snow, walked forward, stood over him. 15 years, she said quietly. 15 years I prayed for this moment, dreamed about it. Now it's here, and you know what I feel? Silas groaned, tried to speak. Nothing. Ruth's voice was empty. You ain't worth hating. You ain't worth anything. She turned her back on him, walked to her daughters, pulled all 4 of them, Hannah, Grace, Lily, and baby Pearl, into her arms. It's over, she whispered. It's finally over. Behind her, deputies shackled Silas Morrison for the last time. The wagon carrying Silas Morrison to Fort Laramie disappeared over the horizon, and Ruth couldn't stop shaking. Not from fear, not anymore. From something else entirely. Something she'd never felt before. Freedom. Jem found her standing in the snow, arms wrapped around herself, staring at nothing. Ruth. She didn't turn. I keep waiting. For what? For it to not be real. For him to come back. For someone to tell me this was all a dream, and I have to go home now. It's real. He's gone. I know. My head knows. But my body... She held up her trembling hands. 15 years, Jem. 15 years of waking up scared and going to sleep scared, and being scared every moment in between. I don't know how to stop. He didn't touch her, didn't try to fix it with words, just stood beside her in the cold. Give it time. What if I can't? What if I'm broken so deep that I never... Then we figure it out together. Ruth finally looked at him, eyes red from tears she hadn't realized she was crying. Why? Why do you keep saying we? You don't owe us anything. You saved us. That's more than anyone's ever done. You don't have to stay. No, I don't have to. Then why? Jem was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. Because for 6 years, I've been walking around dead inside, going through motions, existing but not living. Then you and those girls showed up, and something changed. I started caring again, started feeling again. That scares the hell out of me. Why? Because caring means losing, and I already lost everything once. Ruth understood that fear, lived with it every day. So what do we do? She asked. Don't know, but I know I ain't ready to go back to being dead, even if caring hurts. Even if I can't be what you need? You don't know what I need. Hell, I don't know what I need. Maybe we figure that out together too. Ruth looked at the cabin, at the girls watching from the window, at Martha Pemberton bustling around inside, already cleaning up the mess from the standoff. They love you, she said quietly. The girls, even Hannah, though she'd never admit it. They love the idea of being safe. I just happen to be attached to it. No, it's more than that. Ruth turned to face him fully.
You see them, Jem. Really see them. Not as burdens or property or mouths to feed. As people. Nobody's ever done that for them before.
Shouldn't be special. Should be normal.
But it ain't. And that's why they love you.
The word hung between them. Love. Too big.
Too soon. Too everything. Ruth, I ain't saying more than I mean. I'm just telling you what's true. Take it how you want.
She walked back to the cabin, leaving him standing in the snow with his thoughts. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of healing. Judge Thorne stayed in Silver Creek to oversee legal proceedings. Silas Morrison's trial was set for spring, but the evidence was so overwhelming that even his expensive lawyer couldn't spin it. Ruth was officially granted dissolution of marriage, a fancy legal term that meant she was free. Free. She said the word to herself every morning, tested it like a new tooth coming in. Still couldn't quite believe it. The town changed too. Sheriff Brennan resigned. Nobody was surprised. A new sheriff, a woman named Clara Jennings of all things, took his place. First female sheriff in Wyoming Territory. She came recommended by Judge Thorne himself.
About time this territory caught up with the times, Clara said when the whispers started. Any man got a problem with a woman wearing a badge, he can take it up with my rifle. Nobody took her up on the offer.
Martha Pemberton moved into the cabin with them. Her house was gone, and at 60 years old, she had no interest in starting over alone. Besides, she told Ruth, somebody's got to teach those girls proper cooking.
That man's been feeding them beans and cornbread for 2 weeks straight.
I heard that, Jem called from outside. Good. Maybe you'll learn something. The girls flourished in ways Ruth hadn't thought possible. Hannah started sleeping through the night. First time in years she didn't wake up screaming. The dark circles under her eyes began to fade. Grace spoke more every day. Full sentences now. Sometimes whole conversations. She still drew constantly, but the pictures changed.
Less violence, more color, more family.
Lily attached herself to Jem like a barnacle, followed him everywhere, helped with chores, chattered constantly.
Mr. Cowboy, why do horses eat hay?
Because they like it.
But why hay? Why not cookies?
Because cookies ain't good for horses.
What about cake?
Also not good.
What about pie? I like pie. Maybe horses like pie too.
Tell you what, you finish your breakfast and I'll think about it.
Think about pie for horses?
Think about pie for you. Lily's face lit up. Deal! Ruth watched these exchanges with a warmth she'd almost forgotten existed. This was what family was supposed to look like. What childhood was supposed to feel like. Not fear, not pain. Just simple, everyday moments that added up to something beautiful. Pearl grew stronger every day.
She had Ruth's eyes and Hannah's stubborn chin and something entirely her own, a laugh that bubbled up from nowhere and filled any room.
She's going to be trouble, Martha observed one morning, watching Pearl try to crawl for the first time. Good trouble or bad trouble? The best kind, the kind that changes things. Ruth smiled, first real smile in longer than she could remember. I can live with that. But not everything was healing. Some nights, Ruth woke up in cold sweat.
Dreams of Silas.
Of fists and blood and screaming children. Some days, loud noises made her flinch. A door slamming, a pot dropping, anything sudden. Some moments, she caught herself waiting for the blow that didn't come. Jem never commented on these moments, never made her feel weak for having them. He just stayed. Present. Patient. There. One night, after a particularly bad dream, Ruth found him sitting on the porch. "Can't sleep," she said, settling beside him. "Me neither."
Nightmares?
Memories. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that didn't need filling. "Can I ask you something?" Ruth finally said. "Anything." "That day in the street, when you first saw me, what made you stop? Really?" Jem was quiet for a long moment. "I heard you scream, and for a second, just a second, it was Clara. Screaming for me to help. Screaming while I sat there frozen because the doctor said I had to choose and I couldn't." His voice broke. "I couldn't do nothing for her, but I could do something for you." "So I was, what, a second chance?" "No." He turned to look at her. "You were a wake-up call. Reminder that being dead inside don't stop other people from hurting. I could sit on this ranch for another 50 years feeling sorry for myself. Or I could actually do something. For once in my miserable life, I chose to do something." "And now? Now that the danger's past? Now that I'm free and you've done your good deed? That's what you think this is? A good deed? I don't know what to think. I don't know how to be with someone who ain't trying to hurt me. I keep waiting for the other boot to drop. Ain't no other boot." "See, you say that. But how do I know? How do I trust anyone ever again?" Jem didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was gentle. "You don't. Not at first. Trust ain't something you decide. It's something that builds. Slow, over time. Through actions, not words. What if I never get there? What if I'm too broken to trust again? Then I keep showing up anyway, until you believe it. Or don't. But I ain't going nowhere, Ruth Ann. Not unless you want me to." Ruth felt tears building, fought them back. "I want to believe you." "Then start there. Wanting is the first step." She reached out, took his hand, held on tight. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too. What if we ruin each other? What if we save each other?" They sat holding hands until dawn painted the sky pink and gold. Spring came early that year. Snow melted, ice broke on the creek. The world woke up green and growing. And with spring came decisions. Judge Thorne returned from Fort Laramie with news. "Trial's done. Silas Morrison has been convicted of aggravated assault, fraud, and abuse resulting in bodily harm. He'll serve 20 years in federal prison. No possibility of early release." Ruth sat down hard. 20 years? "It's the maximum sentence. He'll be an old man when he gets out, if he survives that long." "He won't come back?" "Not for 2 decades. And after that, you'll have built a new life, one he can't touch." Ruth looked at her daughters, at the home they'd made in Jem's cabin, at the future stretching out before them. "It's really over." It's really over. That night they celebrated. Nothing fancy, just good food, warm fire, and people who cared about each other. Martha made apple pie from the last of the dried apples. The girls ate until their bellies were round. Even Pearl got a tiny taste, which she promptly smeared all over her face. "To freedom," Martha raised her cup of cider. "To family," Hannah added. "To new beginnings," Ruth said. "To pie!" Lily shouted. Everyone laughed, even Jem, which surprised them all. He'd been so serious, so guarded. The laughter transformed his face into something younger, softer. Ruth felt her heart do something strange, something she didn't have a name for yet. After the girls were asleep, Jem found Ruth by the fireplace. "Walk with me?" "Now? It's dark." "Moon's out. I want to show you something." Ruth followed him outside, across the yard, up the hill behind the cabin. She knew what was there. The 2 crosses. Clara and Samuel. "Jem, I don't think—" "Please." Something in his voice made her follow. They stopped at the graves. 2 simple wooden crosses, weathered but well-maintained. "I come here sometimes," Jem said quietly.
To talk to them. Tell them about my day. Sounds crazy, I know. It don't sound crazy. I told them about you, about the girls. Ruth's breath caught. I told Clara she'd like you. You got the same spine she had, same fire. He paused. I told her I was starting to feel things again. Things I thought died with her.
Jem,
Let me finish. He turned to face her. I ain't asking for nothing, Ruth. I know you've been through hell. I know you need time. But I want you to know, whatever this is between us, wherever it goes, I ain't looking for a replacement. Clara was Clara. You're you. Both real, both important. One don't cancel out the other. Ruth felt tears sliding down her cheeks. Didn't try to stop them.
I don't know how to do this, she whispered. I don't know how to love someone without being afraid.
Neither do I. We learn together.
What if I mess it up?
What if I do?
Then we're both disasters.
Beautiful disasters. Despite everything, despite the fear and the doubt and the weight of 15 years of pain, Ruth laughed. That's supposed to be romantic? Probably not. I ain't good at romantic.
No, you ain't.
She reached up, touched his face.
But you're good at real. And right now, real is exactly what I need.
She kissed him. It was soft, tentative, both of them trembling like leaves in wind. When they pulled apart, Jem's eyes were wet too.
I ain't kissed anyone since Clara.
I ain't kissed anyone who wasn't hurting me since I was 17.
We're a pair, ain't we?
We are. They stood together on that hillside, two broken people holding each other up, while the moon rose high and the stars watched over graves that no longer felt like endings. They felt like beginnings. 2 weeks later, Jem asked Ruth to marry him. Not fancy, not planned. Just came out one morning while she was feeding the chickens and he was mending fence. I've been thinking. Dangerous. Shut up. But he was smiling. I've been thinking about us, about the girls, about what comes next. Ruth set down the feed bucket. And I reckon, that is, if you wanted to. He took off his hat, twisted it in his hands like a nervous boy. What I mean is, would you consider Jeremiah Hartley? Are you trying to propose to me? I'm doing a terrible job of it, apparently. Ruth crossed her arms. Try again. Do it proper. Jem took a breath, got down on one knee right there in the mud. Ruth Ann Morrison. Whitfield. My maiden name was Whitfield. Ruth Ann Whitfield. I ain't got much. A half-built ranch, a stubborn horse, and more grief than one man ought to carry. But I got a heart that started beating again the day I found you in that street. And if you'll have me, all the broken, messed-up parts of me, I'd like to spend whatever time I got left trying to make you happy. Ruth stared at him. This man who'd saved her, sheltered her, showed her daughters what a real man looked like. That was better, she said. That a yes? Get up out of the mud. He stood, hat still twisted in his hands. Ruth.
Yes.
The word came out choked with emotion. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll take your broken parts. Yes, yes, yes. She threw her arms around him. For a long moment, they just held each other. Not kissing, not speaking, just holding on. Then a small voice from the cabin doorway. Does this mean Mr. Cowboy's going to be our papa now? Lily stood there, eyes wide, hope naked on her face. Jem looked at Ruth. She nodded. He knelt down to Lily's level. Only if you want me to be. I want you to be our papa. Hannah, Grace, Mr. Cowboy's going to be our papa. The cabin erupted. Hannah appeared first, trying to look unimpressed, but failing. Grace followed, clutching a drawing she'd clearly just finished.
5 people in front of a house, labeled family. Martha came out wiping her eyes with her apron. About damn time! Even baby Pearl seemed to sense something important was happening, babbling and waving her arms. They gathered in the yard, this strange, patched-together family, and for the first time, Ruth understood what home really meant. Not a place. People. These people. "When's the wedding?" Lily demanded. "Soon," Ruth said. "Tomorrow?" "Not tomorrow." "Next week?" "Maybe." "Can I wear a dress? A pretty one? Can Pearl wear a dress too? Can—" "Lily." Hannah's voice was firm but gentle. "Let Mama breathe." Lily stopped bouncing. For about 3 seconds. "But Papa!" She froze, looked at Jem, fear flickering across her face, like she'd made a terrible mistake. "I mean, Mr. Cowboy, I didn't mean—" Jem's eyes were shining. He swallowed hard. "Papa's fine, little one. Papa's just fine." Lily crashed into him, arms around his neck, squeezing like she'd never let go. Over her shoulder, Jem met Hannah's eyes, the 10-year-old who trusted no one, who'd been watching and waiting and testing him for weeks. Slowly, deliberately, Hannah nodded. Approval. Acceptance. As close to blessing as she'd ever give. Jem nodded back, and Ruth, watching all of this, felt something shift deep inside her. The last wall. The final barrier she'd built around her heart. It crumbled. And in its place, something new began to grow. The wedding was set for the first Sunday of May. Reverend Crane insisted on performing the ceremony himself. Said it was the least he could do after standing by while Ruth suffered all those years. "Redemption ain't just for sinners," he told Jem. "Sometimes the righteous need it too." The whole town wanted to come. Ruth said no to most of them. "These people watch Silas beat me in the street. They don't get to celebrate my happiness now." "Some of them helped in the end," Martha pointed out. "Some. Not all. I know who stood with us and who just watched." In the end, the guest list was small. Martha, Clara Jennings, the new sheriff, Judge Thorne, who made the trip from Fort Laramie special, a handful of townspeople who'd actually risked something when it mattered, and family, the real kind. The morning of the wedding, Ruth woke up shaking. Not fear this time, something else. Something she'd almost forgotten the name of. Joy. Hannah found her sitting by the window, tears streaming down her face. "Mama, what's wrong?" "Nothing, baby. Nothing's wrong." "Then why are you crying?" Ruth pulled her oldest daughter close.
"Because I never thought I'd have this. A real wedding. A good man. A future that don't hurt to think about."
Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then, "I never thought I'd have a papa worth having." "Oh, Hannah." "It's true." Hannah's voice was steady, matter-of-fact. "All those years, I prayed for someone to save us. Prayed, and nothing happened. Started thinking God wasn't listening. Or worse, that we didn't deserve saving. We always deserved saving. I know that now. Took Mr.
Jem,
She caught herself. Took Papa to show me." Ruth held her daughter tighter. This child who'd grown up too fast, who'd carried weight no 10-year-old should carry. "I'm sorry, Hannah, for everything you went through." "Don't be sorry, Mama. Just be happy. That's all I ever wanted for you." Grace appeared in the doorway, holding a drawing, her wedding gift. The picture showed a church. Inside, 2 figures stood together at the altar. A man in a dark suit, a woman in white. Around them, 4 smaller figures, 3 standing, 1 in arms. Underneath, in Grace's careful handwriting, "Love wins." Ruth couldn't speak, just opened her arms. Grace ran into them. "It's beautiful, baby.
I wanted to draw what happy looks like. I never knew before. Now I do."
Lily burst in next, bouncing with excitement.
"Is it time yet? Is it time?"
"Almost, little one."
"I can't wait. I got flowers to throw. Martha showed me how."
"You throw them like this." She demonstrated an enthusiastic overhand motion that sent imaginary petals everywhere. "Maybe a little gentler," Ruth suggested.
"But gentle is boring."
"Gentle is elegant."
"What's elegant?"
"Beautiful and graceful, like a lady." Lily scrunched up her face.
"Can I be elegant and throw flowers hard?"
"We'll work on it." Martha appeared with Pearl, freshly bathed and dressed in a tiny white gown.
"This one's ready. You're next."
Ruth looked at the wedding dress laid out on the bed. Nothing fancy, just clean white cotton with simple lace trim. Martha had sewn it herself over the past 3 weeks. "I never had a real wedding dress," Ruth said quietly. "First time, I wore my mama's old church dress. It had stains on the hem." "Well, this one's yours. New, clean, no ghosts attached." Ruth touched the fabric. Soft, pure, like the life stretching out before her. "Help me put it on?" The women dressed her together, Martha doing buttons, Hannah arranging the skirt, Grace weaving wildflowers into her hair, Lily supervising everything with loud opinions. When they were done, Ruth looked in the small mirror Martha had brought. She didn't recognize herself. Not because she looked different, because she looked free. The bruises were gone. The shadows under her eyes had faded. Her face had filled out from regular meals and restful sleep. But more than that, something in her eyes had changed. The constant fear was gone. In its place, something softer, something hopeful.
"You're beautiful, Mama,"
Hannah whispered.
"You really are,"
Grace added.
"The most beautiful in the whole world,"
Lily shouted. Pearl babbled in agreement. Ruth laughed through her tears. "Let's go get married." Jem was waiting at the makeshift altar behind the cabin. He'd built it himself. Simple wooden arch covered in spring flowers. Nothing fancy, but solid. Like him. He wore his best clothes, dark pants, white shirt, a vest Martha had pressed 3 times. His hair was combed for once. His boots were actually clean. But his hands were shaking. "Nervous?" Judge Thorne asked, standing beside him.
"Terrified."
"Good. Means you understand what you're getting into."
"Do I?"
"No man ever does. That's half the adventure." Reverend Crane took his position. The small gathering settled into silence. Then the cabin door opened. Ruth emerged into the spring sunshine, daughters flanking her like an honor guard. Hannah carried Pearl. Grace held a bouquet of wildflowers. Lily walked ahead, throwing petals with enthusiastic abandon, elegance forgotten entirely. But Jem only saw Ruth. She walked toward him across the greening grass, and he felt something shift in his chest. Something that had been frozen for 6 years, finally melting. "Clara," he thought, "I hope you can see this. I hope you understand." No answer came, but somehow he knew. Wherever Clara was, she approved. Ruth reached the altar. Their eyes met.
"Hi,"
she whispered. "Hi yourself. You look nice. You look—" he couldn't find the word. "You look like everything I forgot I wanted." Reverend Crane cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" The ceremony was simple. Vows spoken soft but clear. Promises made with full understanding of their weight. When Crane asked if anyone objected, Lily's voice rang out. "I object to this taking so long." The gathering laughed. Even Jem cracked a smile. "Duly noted," Crane said. "Moving on." The rings were simple gold bands. Jem had ridden to Fort Laramie himself to buy them, the only time he'd left the ranch since Ruth arrived. He slid hers onto her finger. "With this ring, I take you as my wife, to honor, to protect, to love as long as I draw breath." Ruth's hands trembled as she put his ring on. "With this ring, I take you as my husband, to trust, to stand beside,
To love, even when I'm scared to. Even when you're scared, especially then."
Crane smiled. "By the power vested in me by God and the territory of Wyoming, I pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss your bride." Jem cradled Ruth's face in his hands. Gentle. So gentle. "Hello, Mrs. Hartley." "Hello, Mr. Hartley." He kissed her. The girls cheered. Martha cried. Judge Thorne applauded with dignified restraint. Clara Jennings whistled like a ranch hand.
When they pulled apart, Ruth was laughing and crying at the same time.
We did it. We did. Now what?
Now we live. The celebration lasted all afternoon. Food appeared from nowhere. Neighbors who hadn't been invited to the ceremony showed up with dishes anyway. Ruth let them stay. Harder to hold grudges on your wedding day. The girls ran wild with other children. First time in their lives they'd been allowed to just play. No fear, no watching over their shoulders. Hannah even laughed, a real full-body laugh that made Ruth's heart swell.
"When's the last time you heard that sound?" Martha asked.
Years. Maybe never. That man gave them their childhood back.
He gave us all something back. Martha squeezed her hand.
You deserve every bit of it.
As the sun began to set, Jem found Ruth sitting apart from the celebration. Hiding?
Thinking.
About what?
Everything. Nothing. How different life looks from this side.
He sat beside her.
Good different? The best different. She leaned against his shoulder.
A year ago, I was praying to die. Just end it. Stop the pain. The only thing that kept me alive was the girls.
And now?
Now I want to live. For them. For you. For me.
She looked up at him.
I forgot I was a person, Jem. Silas spent 15 years convincing me I was nothing. Property. A vessel for sons I couldn't give him. But you, her voice cracked, you looked at me like I mattered.
From the very first moment. You did matter. Do matter. I know that now. Took a while to believe it. Believe it yet?
Getting there, every day, a little more.
He kissed the top of her head. Take all the time you need.
What if it takes forever?
Then we got forever. Night fell soft and warm. The guests departed. The girls crashed into exhausted sleep. Martha took first watch with Pearl, giving the newlyweds privacy. Jem and Ruth sat on the porch, watching stars emerge.
I want to show you something, he said. More graves? Something else. He led her to the barn. Inside, in the corner, something large was covered with a canvas tarp. Close your eyes.
Jem,
please. She closed her eyes. He pulled off the tarp. Okay, look. Ruth opened her eyes. A cradle, hand-carved from pale wood, intricate patterns along the sides, small enough for a baby, solid enough to last generations.
I made it, Jem said quietly. Started it for Samuel.
Never finished. After he and Clara passed, I couldn't look at it. Hid it in here and tried to forget. It's beautiful. I finished it this past week for Pearl. Ruth's hand flew to her mouth.
I know she ain't mine by blood, Jem continued. None of them are. But I want them to be mine by choice. All of them. Hannah, Grace, Lily, Pearl. I want to raise them as my daughters, give them my name, if you'll let me.
Jem,
I already asked Hannah. She said only if you agreed.
And I should probably ask the others too. But Lily already calls me Papa,
And Grace gave me a drawing that said Dad on it, so I'm hoping—" Ruth kissed him to stop the rambling. "Yes," she said against his lips. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." "Yeah? They've been yours since the moment you knelt down in the snow and looked them in the eye. Since you treated them like people instead of problems. They just needed you to say it out loud."
Then I'm saying it. They're mine. You're mine. This family, this strange, patched together, broken and healing family, it's mine. And I'll fight for it with everything I got. Ruth held him tight. "We both will." They stood in the barn, holding each other, while the cradle waited in the corner for the baby sleeping in the cabin. A cradle started in grief, finished in hope. Like all of them. Summer came hot and golden, the ranch transformed. Jem finally finished the cabin. 2 more rooms added, a proper kitchen, a porch that wrapped around 3 sides. The girls each had their own bed now. Ruth had a kitchen she actually wanted to cook in. Martha stayed, said she was too old to start over somewhere else. But everyone knew the truth. She'd found family here. Wasn't about to leave it. Hannah learned to ride properly. Not just sitting on a horse, but really riding. Jem taught her everything he knew, and she soaked it up like dry earth drinking rain. "She's got a gift," he told Ruth one evening, watching Hannah canter across the field. "Natural horsewoman. She's got a lot of gifts. Never had a chance to use them before. She does now." Grace started school in town, terrifying for a girl who'd barely spoken for years. But she came home the first day with a new friend, a quiet boy named Thomas, who also preferred drawing to talking. "We don't have to talk," Grace explained. "We just draw together. It's nice." Lily remained Lily, loud, energetic, full of questions and opinions. She started calling herself Lily Hartley before the adoption papers were even filed. "That's my name now," she informed everyone who would listen. "Lily Hartley, with an H, for Hartley, which is my name, because Papa's my papa now. Did you know that? Papa's my papa." "Yes, Lily, everyone knows." "Well, I'm telling them again, just in case." Pearl took her first steps in August, wobbly, uncertain, arms stretched toward Jem. "Papa," she babbled. "Pa-pa-pa." Jem caught her before she fell, lifted her high. "That's right, little one. Papa." Ruth watched from the porch, heart so full it hurt. This man, these children, this life she never thought she'd have. "Thank you," she whispered, to no one in particular. Maybe God, maybe Clara, maybe the universe itself. "For what?" Jem asked, settling Pearl on his hip. "Everything. All of it. You. Ain't done nothing special. You saved us. You saved yourselves. I just gave you a place to do it. That's not true and you know it." He walked over, kissed her forehead. "Maybe we saved each other. That count?" "Yeah, that counts." Autumn arrived with news. Judge Thorne sent a letter. Silas Morrison had died in prison, stabbed by another inmate over a card game. Ruth read the letter 3 times, then set it down. "How do you feel?" Jem asked carefully. "I don't know." She stared at the fire. "I thought I'd feel something. Relief. Joy. Closure. But I just feel—" "Empty?" "No, that's the thing. Not empty. Full. Too full to feel anything about him." She looked up. "He's been taking up space in my head for 15 years. Even after he went to prison, part of me was waiting, expecting him to come back somehow. Now he never will." "That's a good thing." "It is, but it's also strange. Like waiting for a storm that never comes. Part of you almost misses the anticipation." "You'll adjust." "I know, I just need time." We got nothing but time. She smiled, reached for his hand.
I love you, Jeremiah Hartley.
First time she'd said it, out loud, direct. His breath caught. Say it again.
I love you.
Once more.
I love you, you ridiculous man.
He pulled her close. I love you too, Ruth Ann Hartley. More than I got words for.
Good thing we got time to find the words.
All the time in the world.
Winter came again. Full circle. 1 year since Jem had heard Ruth scream in the street. 1 year since everything changed. They celebrated the anniversary with a quiet dinner. Just family, the way Ruth wanted it. A toast, Martha raised her glass of cider. To second chances. To family, Hannah added. To Papa, Lily shouted. To love that heals instead of hurts, Grace said softly. Ruth stood, looked around the table at the faces she loved. To all of it, she said. The pain that brought us here, the courage that kept us going, the man who saw us when nobody else would, and the life we're building together, one day at a time. She met Jem's eyes. To home. To home, everyone echoed. They drank, they ate, they laughed, and outside, snow began to fall, soft and white and new, covering the world in silence. Later that night, Jem found Ruth standing by the window. Can't sleep? Don't want to. Don't want this day to end. There'll be more days, I know, but this one's special. She turned to face him. A year ago, I was dying in the snow. Now look at us. It's a miracle. No, Ruth shook her head. Miracles are things that just happen. We built this. You and me and the girls. Through hard work and harder choices and refusing to give up. That's better than a miracle? Much better. Miracles can be taken away. What we built, what we're building, that's ours. Forever. Jem pulled her close. I ever tell you why I stopped that day? You told me. Clara's scream. Waking up from being dead inside. That's part of it, but there's more. He was quiet for a moment. When I saw you in the snow, something in my gut said, move. Didn't think, didn't plan, just moved. Like my whole life had been pointing toward that moment. Fate? Don't know if I believe in fate, but I believe in this, in us, in whatever force put me in that street at that moment. I'm glad you stopped. Me too, every day, every single day. They held each other while snow fell and children slept and the fire burned low. Two broken people who'd found each other in the wreckage of their lives. Two hearts that had learned to beat again. 1 year ago, Ruth Ann Whitfield had been dying in a frozen street, certain help would never come. Now she was Ruth Ann Hartley, wife, mother, survivor, standing in her own home, surrounded by people who loved her. Not because life was easy, it wasn't. Not because the pain was forgotten, it never would be. But because she'd learned something that 15 years of suffering had almost beaten out of her. Hope was stronger than fear. Love was stronger than hate. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the good people won. She pressed closer to her husband, her partner, her home. Jem? Yeah? We made it. We did. What comes next? He smiled against her hair. Everything. Everything comes next. And Ruth Ann Hartley, who'd once prayed for death, found herself praying for one more tomorrow. Then another. And another. A lifetime of tomorrows, stretching out before her like an open road, ready to be traveled. Together.